enjoyment of their lives? No. They became victims. And in becoming victims, then they became dependent upon Pharaoh. They became dependent upon Pharaoh and then, of course, Joseph. They had to go to them to get bread. They had to go to them to get every bit of subsistence. The American way of life is not about enslavement of the individual. The American way of life is about empowering the individual. And see, that is why this country got started. There's a great portrait when you talk about George Washington, of Washington bowing down in the snow of Valley Forge on his knees and praying beside his horse. And if you understand our history and what happened when Washington, they came out of Valley Forge, empowered, they crossed the Delaware, and that crossing led to eventually a victory and a triumph at Yorktown, is because he put his faith in a creator. He put his faith in God. And that is something that we have to come back and understand. Because if we continue to drive the American people to such a situation of desperation, as we saw with the people in this passage, they will begin to lose faith. And they will begin to call other people Lord, the small L, not the Lord with the big L. That is the danger of creating and expanding a welfare state, creating and expanding such a dependency class, enslaving the American will. Because when this great country expanded westward, no one went and asked for a wagon. No one went and asked for horses. No one went and asked for flour. No one asked for a bridge to be built across the Mississippi River. Because the indomitable American spirit, the faith that makes us who we are, we found a way. And we grew this country to what it is today in 234 years. But if we don't learn the lesson of the passage from Genesis 47, starting at verse 13, we will become a society of dependent people. Which leads to the next, third tenet of socialist ideology, the creation of a utopia state, where everybody is happy, everybody is getting along and they have enough. That's a dishonest tyranny. It's a dishonest tyranny today, and it's a dishonest tyranny there. Because we just heard the people in that passage say, "Oh Lord, thank you for saving us. Thank you for allowing us. And we give our lives to you. We give our bodies to you." They forgot where their blessings truly came from. And if we have people that believe from Washington, D.C., that they can take care of the happiness for each and every American, then they're drinking Kool-Aid. But the sad thing is, will we continue to drink that Kool-Aid as well? The Declaration of Independence says life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. It does not say the guarantee of happiness. It is a responsibility for the people in Washington, D.C. to represent you, to set the conditions for your success. Not to try to come down and engineer outcomes and results. Because if you get into that social engineering from up on high, you defeat this individual spirit. You defeat who we are as an American people. Now, the last tenet of socialism is very simple. It's the creation of a secular state. So often you hear people talk about separation of church and state, but a lot of people don't understand what separation of church and state really is. There is no document, there is no passage in the Declaration of Independence or the Constitution that talks about separation of church and state. Separation of church and state was simply a letter that Thomas Jefferson wrote to a Presbyterian minister in Rhode Island to talk about we should never have a head of state who was also a head of church, because they did not want to see the exact same thing that was started by Henry VIII in England happen here in the United States of America. But we have allowed that message to be so totally taken and distorted by the people who support the young man here with this camera today, that now they believe the separation of church and state means the abolishment of church. See, I grew up in a time where at Grady High School, before our little high school football games, a minister came out and prayed over the football game. Think about how it was in our schools when we were growing up and we had prayer and we had the Pledge of Allegiance.
Amen.
Think about the things that are going on in our schools now, because we have absolutely ripped God out of our schools. But yet we want to come back and blame God for all the things that are happening. If you ask for the hedge of protection to be taken away, it will be. It's just the same. It's when the children of Israel asked for a king, God gave them Saul. And we'll see how well that worked out. But I think somewhere in the United States of America, there's a David. There's someone that will go out and will slay Goliath. There's someone that will recommit this country. There's someone that will rebuild the temple upon which the United States of America was founded. And I challenge anyone, because let me share some verses, not verses, but let me share some quotes with you. The general principles on which the fathers achieved independence were the general principles of Christianity. I will avow that I then believed and now believe that those general principles of Christianity are as eternal and immutable as the existence and attributes of God. John Adams. God who gave us liberty, God who gave us life gave us liberty. And can the liberties of a nation be thought secure when we have removed their only firm basis? A conviction in the minds of the people that these liberties are of the gift of God. I tremble for my country when I reflect that God is just, that his justice cannot sleep forever. Thomas Jefferson. It cannot be emphasized too strongly or too often that this great nation was founded not by religionists, but by Christians. Not on religions, but on the gospel of Jesus Christ. For this very reason, peoples of other faith have been afforded asylum, prosperity, and freedom of worship here. Patrick Henry. I carry with me in my Bible a simple little pamphlet by David Barton that said, America, God shed his grace on thee, and crown thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea. As you sit here today, understand one thing, just as Joshua wrote in chapter 1, verses 5 through 9. You must be strong and of good courage. You must know that the Lord your God, and when I talk about Lord your God, I'm talking about capital letters. Because if we allow God with a big G to be replaced with God with a little g, in other words, government, we will lose the foundational basis and principles that establish us and made us who we are in the United States of America. Amen. Because in those verses, in Joshua chapter 1, 5 through 9, it said that the Lord your God will not leave you nor forsake you. But I ain't never seen a government yet that can own up to that promise. You all are the salt of the earth. You are the light which shines. And I agree with what President Ronald Reagan said. You are a shining city that sits upon a hill. And if America is going to be restored, if this constitutional republic will return to that hill, it will mean that each and every one of you must let that little light in you shine. Just like that little ditty song we used to sing in Sunday school. This little light of mine, I'm going to let it shine. And I'm going to let it shine to the Florida Democrat Party, to the Democrat National Committee, to Ron Klein, and it is going to be a light that will overpower anyone that stands against it. So God bless you all.